Hello, adrenaline fans. A service dog from the K9 squad suffered in the very center of Georgia. But that was just the prologue. A madman like a GTA-inspired crazy gamer steals a Dodge Charger and takes off like he's taking off. And if it seems to you that this is the limit, imagine. A woman with children in the cabin at full speed escapes from the chase, and after a few seconds falls under the most accurate police interception. Buckle up, there's heat ahead. On June 20th, 2023, the family of Anthony Alonzo Sanchez from Otto County, Colorado, was shocked to learn that their son had been in a tragic accident on his way home. But where did it all start? The incident began with the fact that Sanchez's car suddenly began to wind along the road, almost provoking a massive accident. The traffic police tried to intervene to avoid trouble, but the driver abruptly stepped on the gas instead of stopping. Some reports even mentioned that fire had been opened from the cabin. How dangerous was he? It seems that Sanchez, fascinated by the virtual chases from Grand Theft Auto, forgot for a second that this was not a monitor screen, but reality. However, the law enforcement officers were not going to play by his rules. They maneuvered well and blocked the car. When the transport finally froze, they found an emaciated, scared guy in it. He seemed to have regained consciousness. But in fact, everything was just beginning. Sanchez was pinned down, disarmed, and put in a police car with his hands locked behind his back. It seemed like everything was a finale. But using trickery, he managed to throw his arms forward. And then, thanks to the negligence of one of the policemen who left the rear partition unlocked, he slipped out of control again and returned to the game. The officers, stunned by what was happening, barely reported on the air. The suspect had just stolen his official car. Many were struck by Sanchez's confidence that he would be able to escape by speeding away in a police car. When he first found himself driving a car with flashing lights, surrounded by a whole motorcade of pursuers, he was clearly panicking. What made him even more nervous was that he could hear on the radio conversations and instructions directed against him. He knew it wasn't a joke, but it was too late to back down. Residents and drivers who happened to be on Highway 50 at that moment watched in amazement as a company car raced along the highway at speed, covering almost 60 kilometers in less than 20 minutes, endangering many innocent people. Attempts to puncture tires using road traps have failed several times. As a result, one of the policemen decided to lay out the spikes right in the middle of a dense stream of cars. The tow truck driver was in complete shock when a patrol car that had lost control ran into a trap at high speed, crashed into his car, and overturned. Just imagine if it had been a car with children instead of a truck, or the whole family. The consequences could have been really scary. After the accident, the company car was completely smashed, as was Sanchez himself. If it were possible to turn back time by at least half an hour, perhaps everything would have turned out differently. But you can't take back the time. Do you think the police officer is guilty or the perpetrator himself? Write in the comments. Meanwhile, we are moving on. There is a new, no less intense episode ahead. On July 15, 2022, residents of Byron, Georgia, witnessed a truly dramatic scene. Ordinary passersby and police officers, risking themselves, tried to stop an SUV speeding at full speed. What started as a chase quickly turned into real chaos. What happened? According to eyewitnesses, the driver of the car grossly violated the rules on the Georgia 42 highway. Twisting along the road, he almost drove into the oncoming lane. Outraged citizens managed to corner the car at the entrance to the city and called the police. But the driver was clearly not going to give up, either now or later. Initially, many people thought that the driver was a criminal, perhaps someone connected with gangs. But the truth was much more painful. Inside the car was a young woman, depressed, scared, but determined. She said she was trying to protect her young child at all costs. Arrest would mean separation, and she just couldn't bear the thought. The woman refused to get out of the car. Her actions became increasingly desperate. The police punctured her tires, witnesses were banging on the windows, and she was helplessly pushing on the gas. Thick smoke billowed from the exhaust pipe, but even that didn't stop her. She was willing to do anything to stay with the child. After several unsuccessful attempts to ram police cars, she was nevertheless dragged out of the cabin and detained. It would seem that after all this, she should have realized how dangerous she had become for others, and above all, for her daughter. But instead of remorse, she kept repeating, "I didn't do anything. It's not my fault. You don't understand." It was painful for the audience to watch a mother, blinded by fear and despair, drag her child into a dangerous situation. But it was at this moment, as if in a movie shot, that a woman in gray, one of the eyewitnesses, ran up to the car. She pulled the child aside, covering him with herself, and screamed at the distraught mother. Her determination and humanity left no doubt. That day, she became a real heroine. It later turned out that the driver was 24-year-old Sierra Hibbert from Warner Robins. She was arrested and taken to the police station. She was charged with a list of charges ranging from dangerous driving to resisting police. It all started with a simple violation, but ended with a real drama. Sometimes one wrong step can trigger a chain of events that you can't avoid. Do you think she did the right thing? Write in the comments. And now to the next story. What did fate have in store for the next intruder? On October 6, 2022, in Georgia County, in the areas of River Road and I-285, something happened that plunged local residents into real horror. A ruthless criminal shot a random passerby in cold blood to get his white Dodge Charger. The very next morning, he was driving a stolen car as if nothing had happened. When the Clayton County police officers tried to stop him, he didn't even flinch. Could justice have prevailed after such an audacious crime? The suspect who committed the brutal murder was put on the wanted list. The police demanded that he get out of the car with his hands up. He seemed to obey. He stretched out his arms but refused to move. When the officers approached to detain him, he abruptly stepped on the gas and took off. The chase started instantly. The police jumped back into their patrol cars and a tense, risky hunt began. In the oncoming lane, drivers watched in confusion as the first attempt to stop the fugitive with a pit maneuver failed. But soon the officers retaliated. A precise blow, and the car flies off the road, kicking up clouds of dust in the air. It would seem that everything is over. But no, it was just the middle. A few seconds later, a patrol car at full speed rams the Dodge, dumping it into a ditch. Everyone held their breath. However, this did not stop the criminal either. Barely alive, he continued to step on the gas, trying to escape. Reinforcements arrived at the scene. The police tried to persuade him with words, but the exhortations did not work. Then harsh orders and warnings were used. He did not give up. He barricaded himself in the cabin, holding a loaded weapon with him. The situation was escalating. Witnesses saw how the police started throwing heavy objects at the car windows, trying to break out the windows. Then the officers came in from the rear, from the woods with guns and shields. Nothing was working. In desperation, the guards decide to use a service dog. One wrong step and bloodshed could begin, but the dog, sensing something was amiss, hesitated for a moment. It was as if he was being held back by affection for a person he used to trust, but there was no choice. He jumped into the car. Shots were fired. The echo reverberated through the neighborhood. It was at this moment that everything ended. The criminal died. No one mourned him. But the most bitter loss was the hero, the service dog. Despite attempts to save him, he died on the spot. The question remains, could it have been done differently? Write in the comments, stay tuned. There are new stories ahead where life, law, and justice are at stake. That's all for today. Thank you for being with us. If you liked it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and write your opinion in the comments. There are even more incredible stories ahead on the Adrenaline Police Dash Cam. See you soon.